We're good?
Good.
All right. So, here we are again, Brian, myself at the bunker.
Absolutely.
And this is episode 2 with Brad Mavin from Deadly Grounds
Hey,
Cafe
yes,
and
sir.
Curiosities. Or is it Deadly Grounds Canada Cafe and Curiosities Canada?
What do you prefer?
It's Deadly Grounds Cafe and Curiosities.
It's the retail place.
Yeah, the governing body, if you want to call it that, is Deadly Grounds Coffee Canada. That's
Right.
the owner of Deadly Grounds Cafe.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
To
We
set
got
the
that
record
cleared up. That's
straight.
good.
Clear it up.
All right.
Don't make that mistake again.
We got
So,
all walk.
Look professional here.
let's get right into this stuff. Basically,
Before, I think we should.
Oh,
I only
Hey.
came for the tequila.
Hey.
sorry about that.
Starting it off right.
Critical. It's the.
Oh.
Oh, she's tight.
Hang on.
Oh, you
Make
can't
it
get
pop,
the
man.
Last
Make it
one.
pop.
Last one. Oh, there we go. I got it.
Third time's a charm.
Right.
All right. Be gentle.
I will.
I do not
It's
want the
good.
middle one.
Oh my God, dude. Yeah.
I don't even want that one. That was a double.
That
That's
is
a triple.
2 ounces, yeah.
I'll take this one,
I would-
please.
I'd say
do
keep
that
it-
one. I'll do that one.
That's-
Sorry, I didn't realize that was a 2 ouncer.
Holy shit.
Oh, my God.
One
And
ouncer.
then you wouldn't believe what happened.
So I think we should build a wall along the Mexican border.
Yeah, fuck.
I just thought between
Don't
Weir and
stop the
Whit.
There you
tequila
are.
from getting in. Oh, thanks, lad. Here we are.
Cheers, gentlemen.
Cheers, boys.
Fellas,
Goodbye.
Cheers.
All right.
Hi.
Tequila
I
faces.
love it.
That is 2 ounces for sure.
Oh boy, that's supposed to be the good shit.
When it comes to tequila, I don't believe there's good shit.
There is.
There is.
There is.
Oh, yeah.
No,
Brad-
I don't know. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
I know what you're saying. Tequila has a gasoline taste.
Listen, I did the whole tasting thing in Mexico, and I don't think
I
they were
love
all like,
tequila.
"Oh, look at this," and they were all like, "Try this. This is the best one. This is $130 a shot."
I love
Fuck
tequila.
that 100.
That shit's good. I love it. I love tequila.
It is good. You know, the best tequila that I have experienced personally, it was the smoothest. It was a little sweet. Didn't have that fucking punchy in the throat. Hornitos.
Really? Hornitos? Is that the blue bottle?
Black bottle. No, that's Sauza.
No, I gotta
That'll
say, this,
rip your balls off.
This actually
That
doesn't have
shit.
much of an aftertaste. It leaves you. So
It
that's
gets down
kinda
there and
nice.
it gets out.
Yeah,
What's
it's
the
like, so
one?
that's good.
I've been drinking a tequila lately, and I bought it because it was a little expensive, so I knew it wouldn't be so terrible. But it's got skeletons all over the bottle.
Oh, that's the Betty Crocker
it's
tequila.
great. Yeah, it is. Yeah, yeah. I bought that from the grocery store in the baking
I think my
department.
grandmother used to put that in her oatmeal cookies.
I'm gonna look it up. I'm gonna find
That
it.
explains a lot, Chris.
It does. All right. That was good, though.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm ready to go now.
So, Brad,
Hey.
why don't you tell us, why don't you connect the dots for us a little bit here? In a succinct fashion, you saw the last episode of the podcast, so we're trying to keep this train a chugging along.
Absolutely.
But connect the dots for us a little bit, and how I mean, where did Deadly Grounds come from? How did you find it? What happened? Blah 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 blah.
Well, the cool story about Deadly Grounds is you and I actually discovered Deadly Grounds, the original, 6-7 years ago in Syracuse.
Yeah.
Scaricon is a cool convention we go to almost every year if we can. Chris and I and a few of our other friends. And I saw this really cool setup, and it was this coffin and coffee. I'm like, holy shit, this is like two of my favorite things. Chris and I were doing the Huntopolis magazine at the time.
Yeah.
And I went up to Tom, and I'm like, Tom is the owner of Deadly Grounds Coffee. And I'm like, dude, I want to bring this to Canada. And not only that, I want to get you in the magazine as well.
Yeah.
And he did. He came on board as a
In that
sponsor.
order, is that why we didn't get him as an
no.
advertiser right away?
No, he's. I had to, had to warm him up a little bit.
Yeah, true.
But he came on board the magazine, and then it was probably like 3 years later that we finally got it to Canada, and there was a whole lot of behind the scenes, boring business crap about it. But essentially, we thought originally we were just going to be a distributor, and then that just didn't work. Between the Canada and U.S. What do you call it?
Yeah, just
All the
taxes and
duties and all that
crap.
stuff,
Yeah.
right? So we went on our own journey and found our own roaster and started roasting our own blends. And essentially what we share as far as the overall company, Deadly Grounds Coffee Canada versus Deadly Grounds Coffee LLC in the States, is just the name. We share the name, and we do everything else separate except some marketing that we'll share together. We do our own roasts and flavors. He does his own roasts and flavors. The whole idea was, when we brought it up here, was at first it was a side project.
Right.
I was still working full time, but I always had the idea that it was going to be something that would grow and keep growing. And I always looked at it from like a 4-pillar kind of a stance. I wanted to do online sales. I wanted to do conventions. I wanted to do wholesale, and I wanted to eventually do brick and mortar. Those were the four pillars of my success for Deadly Grounds, what I wanted to do with Deadly Grounds. So we grew the first three first, got it out there, got a distributor to work with our wholesale, started doing a lot of the shows, and that's where we built a lot of our fan base. I mean, we started growing like crazy and got this cult following from doing fan expos and Comic-Cons and things.
Why do you think
that.
it grew so fast? Just because it was themed
The
coffee?
theme, I mean,
Like people are like, oh, horror coffee. Like,
absolutely.
This is amazing.
It was like the horror fan had their own thing to call their own, right? It was a genre of coffee, you know. So it's something that you don't really see. You see it a lot in craft beer. You see craft
absolutely.
brewers
Yep,
do their
absolutely.
thing.
Yeah.
And that was my thought. You know, Tom does something very different down in the States. He sticks with our original logo, which is the cadaver feet.
Yep.
And he's happy doing what he wants to do with Deadly Grounds in the States. When we brought it here, you know, I worked with you very closely, and I said, look, I want to make this very much its own identity. I want every bag to be something that people wanted to collect. I wanted everything to have its own uniqueness, right?
Yeah.
I didn't just want to have it just the same thing with a different flavor inside. And that was, I think, the why people wanted to try all the different flavors and roasts. Not because they necessarily wanted that flavor, but I got to get it because I need that new label. And it got to that point.
I haven't collected
right?
that one yet.
Yeah, it became like a collector's item.
I have a quick question. So again, there's the U.S. Deadly Grounds, there's the Canadian Deadly Grounds, and all you really share is a name. Are you in contact with each other ever about, okay, I'm doing, say, Never Sleep Again, I'm doing this over caffeinated one, so that you don't necessarily overlap, or do you collaborate on things? Like what's the contact level of you guys?
Well, I mean, contact level, we talk weekly. Tom and I talk very, very frequently. You know, we have a really close friendship. But we're very happy kind of each sticking to our own ideas and what we're doing with the company. He supports what we do up here, which is very important for me too, because I didn't want him to feel like I was taking it up here and going in a direction that he didn't support.
Yeah, dragging his name through the mud, certainly.
And I mean, you know, the one thing that Tom always says is how proud he is of what we've done up here. So he, you know, we've had his support from day one. But you know, as far as collaborating is concerned, yeah, we do talk. You know, anytime we're launching something new, I ask if he wants to do it, and vice versa. And usually we don't, because we know he knows what works for him at his marketing level and his demographic.
Sure.
And we know what works for us, and it's two very, very different. I mean, you know, looking at the wholesale alone, Tom has, I think, maybe a handful.
The
of
fuck
stores
was that?
Ghost.
I think someone just fell down the stairs.
Jesus Christ.
That's funny. But you know, he has a handful of stores where that was a big focus for us. So when we have about 120 stores that carry our product now and growing daily, and so that was very important to have that pillar, I call it, you know, to be a part of our business.
Oh, sure.
Are you ever worried about Tom? We talked about this before. Are you ever worried about Tom kind of saying, okay, Brad,
Call it a day.
I've let you I've let you have the Deadly Grounds brand in Canada. It's yours. Run with it.
Yeah.
You ran with it.
Yeah.
You fucking superstarred it. And then you think, you know, he kind of shows up and says, well,
I you know, honestly, no. I mean, Tom, if you're listening to this, I know you're American, but even no, you know,
we won't hold it against you, Tom.
yeah, you know, that would be such a typical thing to hear, right?
Yeah.
Happen, and of course, to say that you wouldn't think about it occasionally, especially with the effort you put in. Of course,
I mean, I
you
would
think
yeah.
about it.
Oh,
Logical, right?
I think it's a very
Fuck,
logical.
I'd be worried
fear.
about the guy coming up and snatching and saying, you owe me $50,000
Absolutely
for the use
Absolutely.
of everything. You know,
I think it's
I want a
natural.
piece of the pie.
Well, and the thing about
Tom's
it
not
is,
like that, though.
He's not like that at all. I mean, and the thing is, we've talked about it since day one, right? I mean, there's always been that not olive branch, that's not the right word, but I've always put it out there.
Unwritten
Hey, dude,
agreement.
what can I give you? What can I do?
Oh, yeah,
You
yeah.
know, I mean, we've talked about that, and you know, he's just been happy to grow the brand up here, because the thing is too, we've grown the brand in 4 years, it's almost 5 years now, to levels that he hadn't in the States. So that helps him. You know, that helps him too,
Definitely.
right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So by getting it out there, and we support a lot of you know, different. We do a couple of podcasts that we sponsor, and we do a couple of things in the States with Rue Morgue and with a few other things. So when we spend the money up here, so we're spending money to say place an ad in Rue Morgue or place an ad, you know, send product out to. Right now we've got a new website in the States, a horror website that's going to be doing an unboxing of a bunch of Deadly Ground stuff.
I know there's a podcast looking for a coffee sponsor right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you know, and by all means, you know, you can get in line. But it's, you know,
Consider
and
me
it
in
benefits both sides, right? And when we
Yeah.
run a new commercial, it benefits him.